Good evening to everyone. We give you a very special welcome to Gospel Light Live this evening. We are privileged to have you joining us tonight. We want to encourage you to go ahead and encourage someone to get onto the live. We know that oftentimes, people perhaps get home from work late, and so they're just getting settled in. But we do encourage you as we coming into your homes this evening to get yourself prepared. We have a very interesting session for you tonight, and so we're looking forward to it. As we normally say, grab a cup of tea, coffee, whatever your preference is, and be ready to join with us. And we are also encouraging you to interact with us as we go along tonight. Certainly we want you to interact with us on our live session. Ask your questions, whether you are on Facebook or YouTube. We certainly encourage you to ask your questions and be a part of the discussion for tonight. So, very special welcome. We are giving folks just an opportunity to get on tonight. Ring someone on the phone, let them know that we have started. I don't know if oftentimes we expect everything to begin late, but we are started on time tonight, and we are delighted that you are there in your home joining us, and so thank you so much for that. Before we introduce our special guest for tonight, we want to begin first of all with a word of prayer. So we ask that you just join us for a word of prayer at this time. Father, we thank you so much for your goodness toward us. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for the gift of your Son into this world. We thank you, O God, for giving us a day that we have gone through to praise your name and to give you glory. You have given us strength and health. And Lord, you have done so many wonderful things for us, and so we are so grateful to you. We thank you for the session tonight. We thank you that we have the privilege to just be a part of your kingdom and of your work. And we thank you, Lord, that you have given us the strength to be able to even share the information with our viewing audience tonight. And so we pray your blessing, your special blessing of this time as we will continue, and that you will be honored and glorified, and that the information that's given tonight will be taken to heart. The principles of your word that will be shared tonight, Lord, that certainly they will be taken seriously, taken to heart, and that each one who is a part of the session tonight, Lord, will truly receive much information that can certainly enhance their lives. And so we thank you and we praise you for all that you have done. In Jesus' name, amen. Once again, welcome all of the Gospel Light members. Welcome to those of you who are not members of Gospel Light, but you are here with us tonight. We are certainly, again, as I said, delighted to have you joining us. We are going to launch off tonight on our Building Wealth session. This is one that we have spoken about, and we have been looking forward to this. I know that many of you have been looking forward to this session this evening as well. So, building wealth, and we're going to read the scripture and then introduce our special guest here this evening. Our scripture comes from Matthew chapter 25 from verse 14. Matthew chapter 25 verse 14, which says, "For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money. After a long time the Lord of those servants cometh, and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Verse 22 says, He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained two other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things, I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Then he that had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art an hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury, with interest. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. Cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's our passage for tonight about the talents that the Lord delivered to his servants. And we are using this as a launching pad into our session tonight of building wealth. We are privileged to have with us tonight Yves Ephraim, and we would like to say a special welcome. Good evening to Yves Ephraim. Yves Ephraim is the Managing Director of Pegasus Technologies, President of the Chamber of Commerce, and as we were talking before, there are so many other things about him, but we will leave the other things for a while, but he is well capable of speaking to us on building wealth this evening. And the most important thing is that he knows the Lord, he is born again, and he is a servant of the Lord. And so we want to say a very special welcome to you, Brother Yves, tonight.
Thank you, Pastor Archibald, for having me, and good night to the members and friends of Gospel Light Baptist Church.
And I know that our members certainly remember when you were with us the last time, and I do believe many of them gained quite a bit from our session that you presented when we were at the other location at Fort Road.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes, and that was, I think we had a lot of interaction that night.
Absolutely,
as well.
Yes. I hope we get the same type of interaction tonight.
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. So we are looking for interaction from you. We want your questions to come in, and so begin to prepare your questions from now as we are going into the session. And we are just chatting just a bit as we're giving some more individuals the opportunity to get on to the live broadcast tonight. But we can begin by just talking a bit about the fact that I guess since the onset of the pandemic, it's been, people have spoken about so many struggles, not only financially, mentally. Families have been struggling, individuals. And of course, we know prices have skyrocketed.
Oh, yes.
And people are just having such a difficult time. And we know, of course, a number of factors that has caused this to happen. It seems like disposable income is a scarce commodity, and so many people are really struggling at this time. And so this session tonight is especially important in days that are difficult for so many. Maybe you can just speak very briefly to the how you see it, how you view the times and the struggles that people are going through.
Well, it's kind of inevitable. I think from a biblical perspective, we were already told and warned about it. Yes. These are certainly signs of the end time. And essentially from what we see happening, which of course was precipitated through the shutdowns due to the pandemic, it's as I said, it's a new normal. And one of the things what has come out of all this is the fact that a lot of single industries control worldwide trade. And when those companies just like recently I heard in the news, they can't imagine baby formula.
Yes.
I mean, can you imagine one company is responsible for baby formula for millions and millions of people? And that was the eye-opener. I'm saying it raised a question in my mind that, can you imagine one company controls all that? And so this whole pandemic exposed a lot of these type of things going on, that one company can literally, having problems can destroy the whole economy of the world. Yeah, so we're seeing all those things playing out. But the other thing I want to point out to people is that in the times of this time where it's a downturn, there's some people that are actually becoming more wealthy.
Yes.
So it's not inevitable that everybody goes. You just need to know the rules of the game and kind of capitalize on it. But some people are getting wealthy at this time as well. So it's not a.
So the wealth is not being spread around.
It's not being spread around because I think for the most part, most people are educated about finances. A lot of stuff you hear on the news and the radio and so is not really true. You have to really spend the time educating yourself about the truth. I mean, a lot of people are mistaken about how money works. Most people don't know how money works. They don't understand the origin. They don't understand how it's manipulated. They don't understand that people who save today are losers because the inflation is a hidden tax. And inflation, when you hear these when you hear the government's printing money, you should be afraid, because the printing of money is the definition of inflation. Because what it does is, when you put more money out there and it's not driven by demand for products and services, what it does is actually dilutes the value of each dollar. So when the price goes up, it's not because you have unconscionable businessmen. What you actually have, what's actually happening is that the value of the dollar, of your currency, has decreased, and therefore the price of everything goes up. But most people don't understand it from that perspective. They just think, oh, it's just these people want to charge higher prices. No, that's not what's going on. Right?
Wow. Yes, and as you are talking, I see we have more folks coming on. Welcome members, and thank you so much for joining us tonight again. And we want to see some more individuals. We have some good information that we want to share with everyone.
Absolutely.
On tonight. So,
yes.
And I know Brother Eves is excited about this. I know he loves to share this kind of information.
I really do. Yes.
Yes. So, again, we are inviting your questions, and so feel free to put your questions in that chat box. Our media person will certainly make sure that we have all of those questions, and we're able to answer your questions. So we are going to go ahead and jump right into this, building wealth. And people like to talk about money. Yeah, and I guess in difficult times, building wealth with scarce resources, know, I don't know if some folks may say that sounds kind of like a paradox. Well, you're going to build wealth without...
Well, actually, I think often people confuse wealth with money. And I think therein lies, it's about financial education. Most people, you go to school, nobody teaches you about finance. And because most people, my journey, my knowledge of this started at a young age where I got curious. I just wanted to know how money worked, and when I started to dig deep about money, I was like, the deceit that's going on. Not only do I understand what's going on, but the deceit and how, that's another long story together. Just talking about money. So people confuse money with wealth. Money essentially is, to give you an idea of money. Let me give you an idea of what people confuse money. I think by giving you this example, let's say you're on a desert island, and but the island has fruit and things that you can live off of. What do you prefer to have? You'd have a 10-foot stack of $100 bills, or would a cutlass be? Which one do you prefer, a cutlass or a stack of $100 bills? Right? You see, what people confuse is the fact that money, what happens is people want the things that money buys, right? Not really the money they want. They get confused sometimes with money. right? Money is, from a technical, what we call in economics, called a medium of exchange. It's just it's just something that everybody accepts, that you can exchange with that person so that you can get something you want, right? But ultimately, it's not money we want, it's really the satisfaction of wants and needs is really what we're after. And sometimes people confuse money with wealth. Wealth is the actual material goods that you have, is the actual physical, tangible goods that you have, whether it be your car, whether it be a house, you know, your property. That is wealth. I mean, if you read in the Bible, Job and all those guys, they had assets, whether it be livestock, whether it be land, whether it be that's wealth. That's wealth. Money is not wealth, and the sooner you understand the difference, is the sooner you're on the track to financial freedom, right? And wealth building, because you're not concentrating the money, you're concentrating on the things that money gets you, and how. Okay, so
do you think people are more interested in accumulating more money or building wealth?
I see most people think accumulation of money. They really accumulation of money, and the thing about wealth. Is that usually the wealth is what we can consider an asset, in that the essence of an asset is that it does one of the two things. You can either sell it in exchange of money, right? Or you can keep it, and in the process it can give off money. So for example, let's say you had a house and you rented a house. You own the house and you rent the house. You get that rent every month, so it gives you money. It puts money in your pocket, right? Yes. Or if you said you had livestock and you sold one of your livestock, that gives you money. That's the thing about wealth. Wealth, whenever you transfer it to someone else, it gives off money, right? So you can use that to actually buy things, invest more, or what have you, you know.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, so we should be working towards the building of the wealth with what we already have.
Exactly, precisely.
All right, well, I know folks really want us to get into this tonight. So let's go ahead, and I know you have a wealth of information to share with everyone tonight. So we will just go ahead and begin with the importance of building wealth. I think we alluded somewhat to that.
Exactly.
Why it is important to build wealth as opposed to accumulating money.
Exactly, precisely. Okay. And well, the thing is, what I wanted to do tonight is make sure I can download a whole bunch of tips that you can use today to make a change in your life. Because from the conversation we had, you know, you were very concerned about, you know, the impact that the economic downturn is having on your members and their families. Yes. And I said to myself, because I figured I don't want to go into too much theory. I mean, I will touch, but I really wanted to make sure that at the end of this session, that everybody can walk away with something that they can put in action right away, to kind of, as it were, to have their fortunes reversed, so to speak.
And I think that's what people are really wanting.
Exactly.
Tonight as well.
I wanted to make it as practical as possible. So I also make the assumption that, you know, we're starting at a point where people don't know. They're struggling. So that's the assumption I'm making, that who I'm talking to right now is looking for a way to kind of, you know, get out of the squeeze, so to speak. So I want to speak to that. But to start off, I just wanted to point out to people that economic downturns it's not a new phenomenon. And if you look at Genesis chapter 40, between Genesis chapter 41 and 47, chapters 41, 47, we're given a story there where Pharaoh had a dream about. And what I did that dream, Joseph got involved and was able to interpret that dream and said to him, well, look, hey, what that dream you've had was an indication that there are going to be 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of this really serious famine, nothing you've ever seen before. And immediately Joseph said that, you know, what you need to get right now is someone who is really wise, put them in charge of storing, so that what we're going to do is 20%. In the script, he said 20%. We're going to save 20% of all the grain we produce in the good years, and the years of plenty, to keep and store that up for the 7 years of want, of total disaster. And in fact, that's what's the straight. I mean, that you can even use that as an idea of how you save. You need to save first before you invest. So Investing starts to save. So when everybody's default position is poverty. When you're born in the world, you have nothing. And then the idea is as you work and as you get gain, you need to save it with intention of investing. And it's kind of referring to the story you started off with in Matthew, where everyone based on their ability, because everybody's not the same.
That's right.
So everybody's not going to accumulate the debt, same amount of wealth, because all based on their ability. But at least what you're seeing there is that the first person had first 5 and he had 10, the other one had 2. They both had 100% gain. They both had a 100% gain, okay? So from that story we're looking in Genesis, what we've also seen, what we saw play out in that, is we got to a situation where when the times came, a lot of people were not prepared. Because obviously in the time of plenty, they squandered it and didn't think that that's going to ever stop. And we have that problem today. A lot of us, if you're not financially in tune, and you think that, oh, you're going to have everything is going to be fine forever, and that's the mistake. You've got to be prepared for the downturn. Use the time of plenty to prepare yourself for the time when there's famine.
Correct.
And that's what we saw happen. The other lesson we learned from that story is that when things got real bad, everyone through the world realized that they had to go to Egypt, because Egypt was the one that really prepared themselves, were fully prepared, and they started to trade their money until eventually what happened is that the financial system collapsed. It said in that passage that the money failed. And from an economic point of view, what it means is that the gold was coming in to Pharaoh, but Pharaoh wasn't buying anything from anybody else. So all the gold stopped and nobody had money to buy anymore. When that happened, the next thing happened, they said, okay, look, we don't have anything, but we're still hungry, we need to get the grain. So they then sold their livestock, their cattle, and they sold their horses. And then when that was finished, then they said, okay, they sold their lands and in exchange for food. And then when that was all out, their wealth now is gone. The only thing they have is themselves. And they said, look, we don't have anything else, we don't want to die, we want to sell ourselves into slavery. So we become your slave. And when they did that, at that point, what Joseph did was Joseph said, all right, what we'll do from this, we'll give you a certain amount of grain that you can go and plant, and 20% of your increase from here on, you have to pay it to Pharaoh. That's a taxation coming in there. Yes. Taxation coming in there. And what we're trying to do is that, if you can see what's going on, those who didn't prepare themselves became a victim of the whole system. And for long term, because after they sold their land, that was it. I mean, really and truly, they become a slave to the system. And unfortunately, in a similar way, a lot of us are slaves to the system that exists today. We're not aware of it. We're not aware of it. I mean, that's another story in itself. I mean, I could go down a rabbit hole with you on that one. But for the purposes of tonight, what I would like to just focus on is that I'm saying, look, even though things are going bad today, there's no need to be any despair. All you need, there is really hope, because we have a God that gives us hope. And the important thing is that if you take action and have faith, your situation can change for the better. But you have to the whole process takes time, and you got to be patient, right? It's not going to happen overnight, just like the situation you got yourself didn't happen overnight. It's not going to overnight.
Well, unfortunately, though, a lot of people are probably thinking, I don't have much time. I need to build wealth from tonight.
Exactly. So I've decided in terms of tackling this, because I'm assuming we have some difficulty, and you want to figure out how I'm going to get out of this difficulty. And I'm saying, okay, I'm going to give you the steps to start the process to get yourself, at least start reversing the trend.
Yes.
The first thing you got to do is get serious about your finances. And getting serious about finances, as simple as it sounds, is to sit down and get a piece of paper and start writing everything. In fact, I'd like to start out by referring to a passage of scripture in Luke 14:28. It says, "For which of you intending to build a tower sitteth not down first and counteth the costs, whether he have sufficient to finish it?" In other words, to start this whole thing, you have to sit down and count the cost. You have to sit down and see how you're spending. You have to take stock. So you have to sit down and you need to put on paper, and as simple as it sounds, putting it on paper is important. Let me tell you, it's so easy to do, it's so easy not to do, that people think it's trivial. But I'm telling you, the first step to taking control is putting it on paper. And I'm saying literally, you need to put it on paper. You need to see and write it down. So you need to get a list, and you need to sit down and figure out, how am I spending my money? So on a monthly basis, what am I spending my money with? What I spend my money, how much I'm paying for rent, how much I'm paying to pick up bread, how much I'm paying for gym, how much I'm paying to just pick up a bottle of water there. Everything you do, you need to sit down and try and write on paper, find all your receipts for a given month and see how you're spending your money. Write it down. And also have another list now to see who you owe and how much you owe. Put those down. Those need to go down. That's why you're taking stock. You need, because that immediately shows you what is your situation. Then you need to put on a list that says, what do you own? Because it's about wealth. Because if you're not careful, what is actually happening is that you're spending more than you're taking in, which means that you'd have a deficit. And usually, if the deficit has to come from either you liquidating your assets, whether it be your money on the bank, or whether it be you have to sell your land to be able to pay a loan or pay somebody and you lose. So you have to see your full situation as it stands. So that's the first thing. So tally all of your debts and your monthly expenses, and tally all the things that you owe, that you own. Okay?
Okay, before you go on with that list, is that part of what we have to share with them online? Should we be bringing this up on the screen as yet?
Oh no, that's not yet.
That's later
but
on.
I'm going to go through an exercise where I kind of bring this to life.
Okay,
yes.
good.
Yes,
I'm
going to bring it to life. So, but I'm just trying to go through the steps and how you need to think about it. But the important thing, get your family together. If you're a husband and wife, if you're an individual living on your own, get to the table, get a piece of paper, and do this work. It is important. It's as simple as it sounds. This represents the first step in building wealth. All right? The other thing, while you're doing that, after you've done that, and before you even start doing your analysis, is you need to have financial goals. You know, goals, you need to have spiritual goals. And there are a lot of people living a life, and today, your spiritual life today should be better tomorrow. And if you don't have any goals for your spiritual life, if you have no goals for your finance, if you have no goals for your marriage, if you have no goals for, then anything comes, you just sway with the wind. It's important to have goals. In fact, having goals, where the Bible says, you don't ask, so he can't give you, because you don't know what you want. And setting goals is establishing what do you want. Because once you know what you want, you know what work you need to start doing. But if you don't have any goals set, and those goals could mean, okay, I want to own my own house. Maybe I say I want to get a certain income. Maybe I want to be able to start earning income $5,000 a month, maybe. So, and you need to put it all down. It can't be happenstance here. So building wealth is not by chance. You know, like winning the lottery. It's something that you have to systematically work at, okay? I mean, like, if I could use myself as an example, I remember when my wife and we got first married, we were renting a place, and we realized when our family was big, and I realized, you know, time has come where we need a place of our own. We sat down and we said, okay, look, how much can we afford based on our income, right? In terms of, we worked and said, what can we afford to pay on a monthly basis? Which will go towards a mortgage. And then we work back and says, okay, from that number, what did that give us in terms of the value of a house? And so, and then we said to ourselves, okay, if we did that, then we're going to probably need insurance, because we know that's going to be a requirement. Right. So we said, okay, what insurance we're going to get? And then we decided how we spend, so from there on. So you have to have you need to put a plan. You need to have something like that. It can't happen by chance. You really have to be that that intentional about it, right? So, financial goals. And then the other thing that's very important, and we're going to come down to, is we have to live well within our means. We have to learn to live well within our means, because by this time, by collecting all this information, you can get an idea, or you should have an idea whether or not you're living within your means or not. But to be able to build wealth, which means that you have abundance, it means that you have to live well within your means, and you have to develop a lifestyle to live well within your means. And there's a law that's called Parkinson's law, and you got to be careful because a lot of people succumb to this law. It's second law says expenditures rise to meet income. I remember when I was in my early career, I worked with when I started out teaching for a short while, and I remember I made like $400-something a month when I started then. And then I moved from that and I got a job at Cable Wireless, and I got almost 3 times the amount of money. And you know what I realized? I was able to save more when I made 4 than when I made 3 times as much. All right?
I think that's the case for a lot of us.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's the whole idea of living within the means. You have to have that mindset.
Yes.
I must live well within my means, not just borderline. So don't just expand your expenses to take up your income, because then you're not going to be able to save anything to build wealth. So you have to have that mindset that I must live well within my means, not just in it, well within your means. Okay? So that's important. So what I want to do now is, as an example, I want to bring up the budget. I have a little examples of budget, because the next thing you have to do with all this information is that you need to set your budget. So if you can bring that up, I want to go through this exercise because I want something that everyone can relate to, and so I want you to just kind of get an idea of what it would look like. So you can go and use something very similar to kind of, help. You can actually, something to start with. So you can screenshot it if you wish. It's just an example, but this is a budget I put here. The assumption is that this is a single person working for a salary of $3,000 a month. And what I have in here is a list, expects all expenses on the left-hand side on the expense category, and what I have is original. In other words, let's say you are at that point. This is where you are. The original means this is your starting point. Maybe this is how your money looks like. So if you look, you realize at the end you show a deficit of $460.96. And the column in yellow is what we have now designed based on our plan. After looking at our finances and figuring that we need to live within our means, this is how we reorganize our spending and change our habits to kind of live within our means. So what you see here is that, and I'll just go through the list. So let's say originally in the beginning, at this point, you find you're spending $450 for your groceries, your clothing. It was $65 a month in clothing. You're buying lunch on the work site, and you're buying breakfast. So you need to add that up. That works out to be $300. I think that was based on how much I worked at this, because a lot of people don't realize how much money they spend on lunch and so forth. In a given month. They don't. Then you may be buying your bread every day, and I worked out 105. Then you have payroll. Well, these are just your deductions from your salary anyway. For government payroll deductions, I put that in there for completion. Then your rent. You may be living in a house for $1,000. Your normal water, utility bills, electricity, your phone top-up. You may have a little loan from courts. A lot of courts are doing great by convincing a lot of you to spend it only costs $10 a day.
Yes.
And that's another thing we have to talk about, because there's a lot of, I'm going to mention that about hire purchase, and there's a better way of doing it than doing that. Your grooming, barbershop, your cable TV expense, your gym fees, your tithes, and I deliberately put that at $50 because I'm sure all the churches will attest to the fact that they know that, tithing is down, and a lot of it is because people have, and it's not that they meant not to, but the way they have spent without managing their expenses is that by the time they come to look in their account, no money is there.
Yes.
No money is there. So it's not that they're deliberate in doing this. It's just that the way they're managing their finances is that when time, by the time it's time to put it in, they realize, shucks, that all their money is spent, and this is all they can put in. So that's just trying to give a reality check here. And then pocket money. On the road, if you must have money in your pocket, you're spending. No savings. You clearly don't have any savings. you have your internet service, you're not making any investments, and if you notice here, so what it shows here is that you made an income of $3,000, and all your expenses add up to $3,460.96, giving you a deficit. So unknowing to you, and if you don't put this in paper, that's why I have it here. You probably don't even realize, because if you're thinking in your head, okay, you're paying expenses, but you don't realize that you are actually living in a deficit. So what you actually do is eroding wealth. You're not building wealth, you are eroding wealth. And this is why it's important to put this thing down on paper. Because when you do this, to go through this exercise, the reality is very clear what's happening with you, right? And this is where you need to take corrective measures. So the yellow column now, what I've done now is after seeing that, after deciding what the goals are, and we realize we have to now get to a situation that we need to be within our means. Now we set a budget. Now the idea of the budget is a guide to make sure that we spend to plan. Because as I said, this is where the discipline, this is where you have to act. Once you put this down here, you need to have that discipline to stay to this plan, because if you follow this plan, it will take you out. And we'll talk about a few things here. So first of all, the groceries gone up because we've decided instead of buying breakfast and so forth out and lunch every day, we're going to buy food and we'll cook our own food. I mean, even today, I was there today, I don't buy food on the road. I go home, we cook, and at the end of the day, I go home and I eat lunch. I don't go buy food nowhere. Let me tell you, people don't sit down and think how much it really costs, and they don't realize how much money they're expending. Even today, I mean, perhaps I can afford it now, but still I don't. I still go home, we cook every day, and I eat here.
But is that not dependent on the type of food you buy? Because what I'm saying is, and I've heard the comment that buying food is almost cheaper for me, some people would say, than cooking, because the groceries are so expensive. And what I buy, would be something cheap. A lot of people even, would buy Chinese food, and they would try to spend less because they're always on the go. So is that?
Well, but let me tell you why I don't agree. Because if you took the same ingredients that the Chinese are using and you buy those, I'm sure you can stretch it even further.
But suppose they say, well, they don't have the time to actually, go home and actually cook because of maybe the nature of their job.
Well, this is where I'm talking about, this whole exercise of creating wealth comes with hard work. It means making sacrifices. So the most convenient thing may not be the best thing for you to build wealth. I mean, it's one of those things where you have to set your mind to it, because it's a situation where you are forfeiting immediate gratification for long-term gain.
Yeah.
You can get the gratification later after you've built that wealth. You've built enough wealth that you can do that and it doesn't affect you. But if at the moment you're living hand to mouth, so to speak, and you want to live that lifestyle, then there are consequences for it. You can't get away. These are laws that are set in stone. You can't change it. You have to change you and your behavior if you want to. It's just as simple as that. There's no magic wand here. The rules are the rules. You play by the rules. You get the results that you deserve based on what you do. So I hear what they're saying, but
no, I'm just saying this is the some of the things that we hear.
Yeah, I hear it a lot.
And some people say the nature of my particular job prohibits me from doing that. It sounds good, but the kind of job I'm in, I just can't do that. I mean, I've heard that argument.
Well, what they can do, I mean, for example, all you can do is that you can cook the night before. I mean, you can cook on a weekend. I mean, if you're a single person, you can actually, someday you'll have a time, you spend the day and you cook all the food you need, put them in plastics, or separate them in containers, or however you choose to do it. You can cook it one day if you have free time one day. You do all the cooking one day, and you just keep it in the fridge, and you then just dispense it as you need it. So you don't have to cook every day, but you have to have that discipline of knowing that there's a day you're going to cook, put everything aside. But you've got to change your behavior.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So the other thing is that we decided that with clothing, because I know a lot of people like we spend a lot of time with trying to look like millionaires buying expensive stuff. Every time there's a sale, we try to buy something, and so we end up spending a lot of money. So the idea is that, of course, we know you have clothes, you have to change your clothes, so you can budget. And I said, you want to spend $300 a year, because I mean, if you keep your clothes, you don't have to change it every month. So but you need to change it, of course. So we made provision with it, but we decided instead of having $65, we're now saying it's going to be, we're going to put aside $25 every month just to have about $300 a year to buy your new clothes. All right? And the other thing we decided, we stopped the lunch. We stopped buying the bread, because that's probably good for your health too, because all of us get diabetes from it. You wouldn't believe it, but I had to stop doing that too.
Oh, okay.
Don't show it, but I had to do it. Of course, you can't control your deductions. The government decides they take that out to you. You have no control over that. And here is it, you may have to make a decision. Look, maybe my rent is too high. Maybe I'm paying too much for rent. I mean, I know that, people like the comfort, but sometimes you may, based on your financial situation, you may have to kind of go back a little bit to go forward. So you may have to kind of cut, to bring your finances under control. You may have to cut, and maybe not so nice an apartment anymore, something, but it's livable and clean and, safe. You may have to make some changes. So as you see here, we had to find somewhere affordable. And I said this is based on a single person. So this might be some accommodation for a single person. So $850 a month. Now the thing is, just as a matter, it's usually a guideline in your budget. The guideline in terms of when I was president of St. John's Corporate Credit Union, and whenever the loans officers actually do an analysis on your income to decide whether or not you're credit worthy, one of the things they look to see, what your spend is for your housing. And the rule of thumb is that it should not be more than a third of your income, right? So as you see, this is 28.3, so you're good there. As you see in the percentage column that is shown towards the right, it shows that works to be 28%. So you're good in terms of best practice, right? You don't want what you're spending, whether it be a mortgage or what you're paying for rent, you don't want that to be more than a third of your income.
Okay, so that's a 28.
Is that 28.3?
28.3%.
Means you're good. You're good.
Okay.
You're well within the best practice.
Okay, and what was the percentage you gave when the loans officers are looking at
They usually look about 30%.
30%?
Yeah, so
okay.
A third.
So it should not be above 30%?
Yes, because
Okay.
if you go take it any higher, you're going to put a lot of strain on yourself to kind of, for the other things that you need to pay out, you need to pay for. So we know that we have utility water bill, we don't have a choice with that. We know electricity, we could probably, watch how we turn on the lights, use high energy bulbs and things like that. Sorry, low energy bulbs. And other things that we could do some things to make sure we manage our consumption. In fact, I would say recently, one of the things I did recently is that I realized I had an old fridge, and that old fridge was really using up a lot of electricity, and we had to make a decision because of the bill to just change the fridge and get the new fridge that's running more efficiently. We saved almost $300 just by doing that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm serious. Because I was concerned about the bill, and we realized the only thing I had to really put in the fridge, and we said, okay, it's an old fridge. And I guess some of the seals were having issues with it.
Yes.
By changing it, getting a new one, the consumption went down. So it's things like that you need to look at.
Okay, so let's go ahead and pick up one question we have here. And perhaps this is a good time to jump into this, because somebody's asking on Facebook, how would you define your means? If your means is defined, I guess it means by your pocket, and let's say you get an increase in pay, do you adjust your budget, or do you use the same budget and save the extra money?
You save. I would say you put it to
So
save.
use the same budget.
Keep the same budget.
Okay.
The idea, and in fact, that's one of the things in the here we'll see on this new budget. If you notice down at the bottom, I have investments. There's a rule of thumb, and I have practiced this. For most of my, when I learned this principle, I practiced this, and I'm telling you, it works. The thing is, most times with budgets, we tend to look at the expenses and we behave as if the income we can't do much with that. This investment here is to put 3 to 10% of your what you earn every month in developing you in terms of your skills, developing you as your skill. Because when you develop your skills, you become more marketable. So, for example,
so that's 3%.
Yeah, 3 to 10% of your income. If you, well, 3% the minimum. If you know, here's 2.5, and because we're kind of tight, this particular budget.
Well, that's interesting. We have that on the. If we could just bring that back up on the screen, 3%.
Yeah.
Okay, we should see that now. 2 to 3%.
Yeah. Towards the bottom on the right hand.
Oh, investment. Okay.
This word is 2.5% in this case, but ideally you want to be able to have about 3% of whatever you earn. You want to put that into things that improve in your education. So if, let's say, and this is where you have to strive for excellence. So if, let's say, you know, you're an electrician, you want to make sure you're spending time in becoming a better electrician. You're putting money back, whether you in your training, whether you're getting better tools, whether it's, you know, you technology out there, you make yourself familiar. You need to spend some money on yourself because this has to do with your ability to generate more income.
Yes.
Because if you put investment in you, then that's the only way income is going to go up. If you become more valuable to the marketplace by the skills you've developed, then you can attract more income. Because the thing is, if you just focus on expenses alone, the problem with expenses is that they're going to go up. Inflation going to carry them up.
Yeah.
And if you don't do anything in income, you see what's going to happen. You're going to be back. So you have to spend some money developing you and your skills to be able to start getting a higher income. So that's very important. And not many people talk about it in the budget.
I was going to say, a lot of people don't
talk
mention this.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, I spent a lot of money invested in myself to make myself better. And I mean, the reason why I've been able to go different places, to be put in places of responsibility, is because I have taken the time to invest, whether it be getting books to read on the subject, whether going on courses to do the subject. So it doesn't mean you have to go to university to get it. It's to get that knowledge and be able to apply that knowledge.
Yes.
To the extent that somebody's willing to pay you for that knowledge that you have. And I'm saying that you have to invest in yourself because that's the only way your income is going to go up. If you stay the same like you came up from school and never did anything, nobody's going to want to pay a premium for you.
I think we need to bring that up on the screen. 3% in
3% of your income
in yourself.
In yourself to get better.
Because I haven't heard a whole lot about that.
Yes,
in terms of
and that's what I'm saying.
Yourself.
If you just listen, I'm saying if you listen to the mainstream media and all this stuff in the public, look, if you just, that's all you do, you'll never gain wealth. I mean, it's just like wisdom is, and everybody have wisdom because wisdom, if you in Proverbs, you have to go looking for it. It's about the searching. And and what I've done is that I've kind of read books of people who are successful. First of all, I don't read books, particular books that help me. I don't read books for people who just theory. I read books about people who are actually successful and see what they have done.
Okay.
And this is what they do. They actually invest in themselves to make themselves better. Right? The general public doesn't know this because they're getting this information from people who are just academic and don't and they made that themselves be successful. And they don't know.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we have a lot of those. Yeah. So that's an important thing that with this thing, very, very important. If nothing else you're left with, if you do that rule there, that will set you on your path to wealth creation. The other thing we've done is that what I've done, I like in my case, you have to cut the cable TV if you have to. And this is where...
All right, there we have it, 3%.
Exactly.
Yes,
invest 3% of your income every month. Yeah, and in fact, there's a saying that if you invest 3%, if you start by investing 3% of yourself every year, it'll get to a point where you cannot spend that 3%. It's your income is so big, you can't spend the 3%. Can't spend all of it. And I'm telling you, that rule works. Yes. It really, really works. So if you got nothing else tonight, I think that is one of the things that would make an absolute difference. And now I'm sure now I've explained to it, it makes perfect sense.
Yes,
right.
Yes, it does. It does.
It's one of those things that's not so obvious, you know, and you have to be an insider to understand these things.
So why don't we hear this more often? Is it that if people invest in themselves, I mean, how would this hurt them? I'm thinking this would be a good thing.
It is.
So then why don't we hear more about this?
That's why you have that's why you have the 1%. You talk about the 1%.
Yeah.
The 1% of the people who know these tricks.
Oh, okay.
The vast majority, they're not been told. The banks don't tell you this because the financial system is geared towards making the vast majority of the population financial slaves. Because and I say that seriously. From what I know, that's another stuff I can share with you. I mean, you wouldn't believe the kind of things that are going on that people take for granted and don't realize. But let me tell you, the whole system is rigged towards your financial ruin. And if you just listen to the media, just the regular media, and they will tell you one thing that doesn't work. And that's why people can't understand that, you know, they're working harder, they're not making any money, things are getting worse. Because you're listening to you're deceived, really.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But this is what the 1% know. The 1%, they know that. They know that.
So that's why they're getting richer and
exactly. They know these rules.
Okay.
And I mean, from the story we looked at with Egypt and Joseph. Joseph, he said he was wise, and they had got somebody wise who had that insider, knowledge, and was able to, make a difference. Whereas the whole world was, making themselves, at least the whole of Egypt making themselves slaves unto Caesar because they didn't know. He knew what to do.
Yes.
And he made all the wealth when all these people lost. So you see, it's a very few people make their wealth. So the knowledge and these secrets, which are secrets, and you have to go looking for them.
Yes,
you have to
yes.
search for them. If you sit there, it ain't going to come to you.
Okay.
Right. You've got to go. You have to spend. And this is all part of the investment in reading and learning this. These are stuff I come from reading, from tapping into the successful people. And sometimes you have to spend money to do it. Right? But this is important, very, very important. The other thing is that you need to have savings. If you notice now, I've kind of, if you go back and look at the budget, you have to have some kind of savings. Because the savings is what you need to do several things. It provides a buffer for the emergency. It also allows you to put money aside. And I'm kind of going ahead of myself, but I think I'll probably do it now because I'm probably running out of time. I have a lot more to say, but I realize we can't run it. So I'm going to just mention that. Let me tell you one of the things that I do it, what people make the mistake of. It takes a long time. If you notice here, if you save $219.04, in a year's time, you would amass $2,628. What tends to happen at that point is people take their money and they say, okay, I need something. And they go take the savings and they spend the savings off. Bad idea. It takes you a long time to save it. In banking, you call it leverage. So for example, let's say you have $2,628. What you should do, or what I would recommend you do, is that you go and you need to get a loan and you have that money in the bank, you leverage it. What I mean by that, it means that you go to the bank and say, look, I want to buy an appliance for $1,000. Give me a secured loan. So you take a loan, so you don't touch that money, it stays there getting interest, and you get a loan on the basis of it, and because it's a fully secured loan, you can negotiate a lower rate of interest, and you get approval real quick.
You mean secured with that savings?
That savings is secured, it becomes a security, and you can get a less loan, let's say you need to pay this $1,000. So you just take the $1,000 out of your money and go spend it. You're using other people's money. That's one of the things of investment. Use other people's money. And because of inflation, because of the rate of inflation, it makes sense to do it this way. Because what inflation says is that the cost of the value of money today is less than the money tomorrow.
The value of money
okay, let me say it differently. The buying power of a dollar today is less tomorrow. Okay. Because of inflation.
Yes.
Exactly. So the idea is that you use other people's money because of that. It benefits. So savers in an inflationary economy lose. Because what happens, you may have $2,600, but it can't buy anything. Today it can buy something, but in a year's time, the thing that it could buy the year before,
Yeah,
it can't buy
anymore. Yes.
So it makes best sense to use somebody else's money and use your money as leverage. So what you do is you keep that money and then you can keep adding on top of it. But if you spend it all off because you took $1,000, they've gone back down again. And it just takes a longer time to kind of build up.
But then where in the budget would you fit in because, okay, you have the secured loan now with that $2,600.
Yes.
So now you have to find other ways in the budget to actually pay for that loan.
Right.
Okay.
So, for example, you see I had a loan to courts, right? And in fact, this is one of the things, I mean, I'm sure this is something that I did, you know, in the early days when we just started out the family, my wife and I. We decided, we knew where we wanted to build a house. So what we actually did is I said, okay, just get I'm going to rent an unfurnished place, and I'm going to buy all my appliances. So most people would go run out to courts and say, okay, buy this. I looked at, I worked out the interest rate on courts, and if I were to get higher purchase, and it worked out to be 45%, right? You know, you're going to be paying. I mean, it was wicked.
Yeah.
I mean, and so what I actually did, I actually went and looked at all the appliances, went and what the prices were for the cash prices, put it together, and I went to the credit union and said, give me a loan for this amount of money, and that money was able to buy, is sufficient to buy all the appliances. And then when I had the cash, right, because I had a good deal from the credit union, of course, then had the cash, I then went to the different places of business, and I then negotiated and said, look, this is the price, can you give me a discount?
Yes.
So eventually I had extra money in my pocket when I done. At the end of the transaction, I had extra money in my pocket.
Yes,
And I was able to negotiate because I had money in my hand to negotiate, right? So this was not, you know, I'm really serious. I have the money, I can show you the money. Right. And that's leverage, and you have to negotiate. So I did a lot of that in negotiating to get very good deals as a result of that. And then of course, I didn't pay the higher purchase rate, so I'm not paying nothing weird, nothing near what people are expecting in interest through the higher purchase system, right? So you have to understand those things, and because a lot of people don't sit down and actually work it out. And I didn't work it out today because there was so much. That's one thing I realized there's so much information.
There's so much information. Yeah, and we're encouraging your questions. Remember, we're reserving some time for your questions. So we're looking for you to put your questions. We've had just one question coming in so far. So again, before the session is over, we want you to put your questions in, because we do want Brother Ephraim to be able to address your questions. So we are telling you this again so that you will be able to have some answers to your questions. Okay, you want to finish up with the budget and go on to the...
Yeah, so
I know a lot of people are looking forward to that practical...
No problem, yes. So I think we can move on from here for the budget now. And I think in the interest of time, I wanted, for the benefit of those who... I mean, in the budget I showed that I was able to move to another rented apartment. I could downsize that. But if you are already, you say you have a mortgage going, and you feel I'm stuck, I think, and we can bring up the other slide, I want to talk about techniques for accelerating your loan, your mortgage. In other words, to pay off your mortgage and to pay less interest. Very, very simple techniques. There's several ways of doing it. So in this particular scenario, I'm assuming that you have a loan of, say, $300,000, and you're paying an interest rate of 6.5% per annum, and it's a term for 30 years, and based on that, it means that you're paying $1,896.20 per month. This is what you're required to pay to keep your payments going. Now, the first scenario I have there said if the loan is allowed to run its normal course, right? If you just said, okay, I'm going to pay just faithfully what they asked me to pay and for the time they said to pay, what would happen at the end of that 30 years? You would have paid $382,633.47 in interest alone. So when you add, that's just the interest part. But of course, you have to pay back the principal, which is $300,000. So when you add the interest to the principal, you would have paid back to them $682,000, 630, 347.
More than
That's
twice.
what you would have paid
More
back
than
for a
twice, yeah.
$30,000 loan. So a lot of people don't probably do this exercise, but let me tell you, that's what's happening. And people don't realize why you're broke, why you don't have the money, because that's what's happening. All that money, all your money is going to that loan, and you don't realize it, right? And then to the other scenario, I'm saying, so I'm assuming, okay, let's say you're out there and you've already been 15 years in your loan payment. Is there any hope for you? Is there any hope? And I said, so the other scenario is saying, look, if you've reached 15-year mark, or just as an example, in your mortgage, then you can start now. There's nothing to stop you from taking action and gaining something. It may be a lot, but you still gain something. If you start now and just simply by paying $100 more, right? From now on, adding $100 more to your payments. So in other words, 1,000. Instead of paying $18.96, perhaps now 15 years, you could probably afford another $100. If you add another $100, let's simply add another $100 per month, right? You would have ended up now paying, and to the end of you would end up paying $271,244.30 in interest. It's less now as opposed to $380. Right, it's less just by putting another $100 on from here on.
More than $100,000 less.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
271,382.
Yeah, actually, I made a mistake here. I showed the savings. I made a mistake somewhere there. Well, okay, something.
So after 30 years,
and you would have paid off 15 months earlier. As a result of doing that too. So you by just doing that, you would be paying off, that thing 15 months earlier. Okay. So yeah. Now, if you decide now, if from the beginning, let's say you're at a point where you're now negotiating a loan of that magnitude, you can start if you decide right on the bat that you can afford another $100 and add it on for the same payment. You would end up only paying $3,000, the interest over the same period of time. You save much more, and you end up paying that in 49 months earlier. That's 4 years sooner.
Okay, all right. I think I was looking at the wrong column. I think in the second section, okay, so the $271,244
interest, yeah,
would be the 15-year mark.
Which one? Sorry.
That's the second section.
Yeah,
if you reach the 15-year mark.
15 more years, yeah. That's 15-year mark, right?
Okay, all right. But that's not with adding the $100.
So the idea is that the first 15 years you didn't add $100. Now you've gotten this information. You know, adding on that $100 now going forward. For the next 15 years. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And so the idea, which I haven't read here, the idea is that the more aggressive you are with your payments, the quicker you get out of debt, right? And this is very powerful. Now, I put some caveats here. In other words, some little warnings here. But you can't just do it like that. You have to make sure before you do this, you make sure that the agreement you have allows you to do that. First, I have a number two. The agreement you have to do that because depending on the loan that they gave you, if you weren't paying attention to the fine print,
right,
you may be penalized. They may penalize you for trying to do that because the banks don't want you to do that.
Right.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
So, and this other thing, the first point as well is, look, you have to also don't just put the money in. Make sure you talk to the bank and say you want that to put towards the principal. So what they will do is put it to the interest, and it makes no difference.
Okay.
So I have to tell them that the extra you're putting is going towards the principal, because the principal is what they use to, the principal changes every month, and that's the basis on which the interest is applied. So it has to go to the principal to bring that down fast, right? So very, very important that is done. Let me see something. I realize we got we out of time now, I think?
Well, we're after 8 now. If we can just talk a bit about some of the practical ways that people
Right.
can. Yeah.
I think if it's what, I want to really talk to the whole question of credit card versus debit card.
Okay.
Because a lot of people losing money they don't realize they're losing. Now, I tend to use credit cards. I don't use debit card because I know some years ago when the banks were pushing for everybody to go to debit cards and they're making some debit cards were so wonderful, right? And the reason for it is because the debit cards shift the risk to you as a consumer. The credit card shift the risk because the credit card is the bank's money.
Yes.
Right? So if there's fraud, they don't have to worry about it. It's your money, you lose your money, and you have to, hopefully that they'll help you and assist you. But if it's your money, it's your responsibility. If it's a credit card, it's their responsibility to track down who the fraud is. Because you can just say, look, I didn't do this, I don't know where it came from, I'm not going to pay, right? So the banks skillfully marketed the stuff to make people feel that, you know, this was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But behind the scenes, what they were doing was they wanted to shift. And this is discussion that was going on in the banking community, which I knew was going on, discussion was going on, but they marketed it to the public. And this is what I'm saying, if you listen to the thing media, you only get one news.
Yeah.
But if you know the insiders and you're following what's happening on an insider, you realize that wasn't the motive. The motive was to shift the. So I would say use a credit card. The other thing about a credit card too is that in a lot of cases, particularly, there's some fees may come up. A lot of fees may come up with use of the debit cards, which you don't see a lot with credit cards. Plus, a very important thing, and this is now another tip, a very important tip in terms of managing your finance. Credit cards generally have reward points.
Yes, they do.
And what I do is all our expenses paid by credit card. All our expenses are paid by credit card, and we use it like a charge card. So all the expenses, and we take all our money when we get our salaries, we pay off everything every month. So we don't pay we don't have any extra late charges, we don't have any interest because we're using it as a charge card. And every time we use it, we get money back. And I've accumulated enough rewards in that I've used it to bring home my children when they study in university. I've had enough money accumulated because that's what I use for all my transactions. I get so much rewards. I've used it to buy tickets and make my family come in.
So you're recommending for all your local transactions, all your transactions,
That's right,
they just take the salary and put it back into
Exactly.
Okay.
So you use it as a charge card. So you're not using it as a credit card. You want to leave balances. So you pay your balances. So you don't pay interest. You don't pay anything every month.
So you use it as a debit card, but it's a credit card. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the benefit you get is that you get those reward miles that you could use for something useful. The other thing with that too is that you also improve your credit worthiness. So over time you can get your credit line increased because they see you've been religiously doing it. So your credit, and that's important too. I mean, one part of being wealthy is that I always said, even in business, my two most important people is my banker and my landlord. And I build that relationship with them so they trust, because when I have difficulty, I need them to kind of have understanding and be lenient towards me. And so you want to build, if you have a reputation of paying your bills to the bank and on time, and they see you as what they call a good risk, right? And they're willing to give you something because they know you've demonstrated, you have the discipline, and they will definitely reward you in kind. And likewise, you know, if you're a landlord and you pay your rent on time and so forth, you have a little difficulty, he's amenable to kind of give you a little break.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Wow.
So simple little things like that. There's little things that the people don't aware of that makes a difference. I'm telling you, in your financial outcome.
Okay, so this is how one of the ways you would recommend for building wealth.
Yes.
And leveraging what you have.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
I was going to say, I know that we spoke about this some in terms of investing
Yes.
for building wealth.
Yes.
Maybe you can take just
Okay.
2 minutes and just talk
Okay.
about that for a while.
All right. Now, I just need to point, in wrapping that up. So just want to point out that the building of wealth is a gradual thing. It's incremental. You know, it's not zero to hero in no time flat.
Right.
It takes time to build it, but it's consistent. You have to have that discipline because you're building wealth gradually, and it gets to a point, particularly if you have the money, because once you're having savings, and that savings is what you use for investments. So you have to make sure that you're managing your funds, so you're creating savings, and that when you have those savings, then this is where you, like I said, leverage.
Yes,
because this is where when you have that money, you can do a lot of things with it. You can leverage it and get bigger loans, and then you can even use it to, let's say you even buying a property that you're not living in, but you could end up renting. This because it's always a small little thing. Because all these things gradual. It's just habits, just having the right habits over time that you just build. You add in, before long you realize, whoa, look at what I have. So, but it's very incremental. But you have to have those habits. So I'm saying it may seem very, you look and say, oh, that's all $200 and no big deal. But it's over time, keeping that discipline. That will translate into a lot more because as you add a little bit more, and that's keeping within your means, well within your means too. So you're not expanding. So not because you get more money, you expand your expenses.
Yes.
Keep your expenses. Don't succumb to that temptation because you have more money, you expand out and your expenses. You want to you go in all these trips and don't lose that discipline. Keep it like that. Keep it there long enough, you'll have sufficient that you could do that as often as you will. But if you I got money, and there's some people that they can't stand seeing money in their account. As soon as it builds up, their eyes say, oh, I'm going to spend it, and they spend it, bam, and it's starting all from scratch again. But money, there's something called a compound effect. It's like interest. So if you, in fact, I was looking at, I forgot to research, but it showed that if you were putting a penny, a penny a day for 10 years. I'd have to double check. You would have earned, you kind of have $1 million by the end of the time because the compounding effect, right? If you double a penny if you double it, if you put a penny in there and you keep doubling it for about a year, you end up having $1 million. So you could do the math, but I can't remember it now. But if you just double it, just going on, that's the compounding effect. So when you put the savings, then the interest is going in that, and then you leave it, but at the same time you keep adding to it, then the interest goes, and it builds, and and that eventually gets significant. And
what is the best place then for people to put their money to get the most interest?
And I think that's the most difficult thing, I think, in Antigua. In fact, what I would tell you what, I would say sometimes if you can get like a property that you can fix up, right? So if you get to a point where you have enough money, perhaps you could get a mortgage and you use all the techniques I'm talking about here, and you buy something. Don't go outside your capability. Buy a little something, maybe a 2-bedroom somewhere, live in a little house, and you fix it up. You put your money there. In fact, I did something very similar to that. And I found that if I had left the money in the bank, I would have gotten 2%. But as a result of putting that money and fix up this property, the return on that money was more than 10% per month. It's worked out that if I got interest at 10% per month. So you have to understand the return on investment. So something like that.
So you're advocating investing as opposed to saving?
Yes. The economy we live in today, savings, the value of your money is deteriorating every day with this government printing all these currencies. And you see, like Antigua, like Eastern Caribbean, the EC dollar is linked to the US currency. So all that trillions of dollar printing that they're doing over there is actually affecting our ability or the value of our EC dollar because it's linked with that fixed exchange. Right? And because of that, it means that whatever is happening over there with the US money, and that's going to mean a lot of trouble soon.
Yes.
We are going to feel it too because we're directly linked. And so your savings will evaporate. it's like hyperinflation. I mean, you've heard countries where, all of a sudden the money has no value.
Yes,
That's what will happen. That's what hyperinflation does, and that comes from just printing a lot of money. And America was able to get away with it because it's considered. It's called the United States. The world had decided that the U.S. dollar was considered the the word. It's the currency by default that everybody uses for trading. There's a word for it, just slipped me. But because of that. But if it loses that status, oh boy.
Wow.
The United States dollar is in for a lot of trouble.
So let's go to, you mentioned like investing in a small property. Are there some other ways perhaps, because everybody's not going to invest in that way. So maybe if any comes to your mind, some other small practical ways.
Something like even starting a backyard garden and it's producing sufficient that you have for yourself, and probably could sell a couple of things to your neighbors. You could also maybe do something on the side, do work on the side. This is about investing in yourself where you get a skill, maybe a new skill. I mean, even what you're doing, even to make this broadcast, I mean, not everybody knows that. If you just build that skill, you can sell your services to someone, and that's a stream of income as well, right? So that's what I'm saying. You have to invest in yourself too, and you can invest in things, in assets that allow you to throw off money. Because what I mentioned in the beginning about assets, so assets throw off money, right? So you invest in assets. You yourself, like an asset too. If you get better, you can earn more. If you have a property that you fix up, people are willing to spend more, and you get more money a month off, and that's what it is. Let me tell you, a lot of the very wealthy, when you hear this, they say these guys are billionaires, they don't have $billions cash, What they have is stocks or shares that's worth that, right? So that's why overnight these guys can go from being billionaires to nothing. Because if everybody decides, oh, that stock is not good, and I don't want to spend that money for it, and then, bam, they're poor. They didn't lose anything. All it is the perception, the value of the wealth, of the things that they own. And this is why I said wealth, the key thing about wealth is about property, what you own. Wealth is more what you own. I think of riches in a way as money you have in the bank. But wealth you need to have wealth, which is property. You need to have assets, because assets throw off money. Right?
Okay.
Right.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Normally we hear about, putting your money in the bank.
Worst thing, invested in something.
Okay.
And that's the story you talked about.
Yes.
Essentially, and in fact, it says here in verse 29 of the same passage in Matthew 25, it says, "For unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath."
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So in other words, you have to risk that. You can't just put it in and save it, because it's not doing anything. You're not going to return on it. At least, no, the bank's not giving you anything. You're not going to return on it, and the only way you can increase your wealth is that wealth has to generate more wealth. And the only way you can do it is by risking it, working it, putting it into something that it generates more money for its own, right? In fact, what the wealthy do is that, this is what they said, they save in the beginning, and they make the money work for them. That's what we refer to. The money works for you. Instead of exchanging your time for money, you do that in the early stages, and then when you get your money, your investments then start earning on their own. The money makes more money for you.
What would you say to people then who risk their money, and maybe their first risk failed, and they give up and they say, "I'm not going to do this anymore"? Because obviously everybody's not going to succeed the first time.
Exactly.
So what would you say to people who are, viewing this tonight and would say, I took a risk, I invested in something and that failed? What would you say to them?
Many times when that happens is people invest in things they don't understand. And just like the parable talked about the ability, so one had 5, it means obviously he has the wherewithal to handle that kind of investment. And you had one with 2, right? The idea is that it probably indicates that their level, their abilities that they've got. The one that has 2 now has 4, so now he's getting better because now he has to invest 4 more now. The same thing, what happens, a lot of people invest in things that they don't understand, like these crypto coins, for example, is going on. People don't understand these crypto things, and they just people they're being deceived, and because they don't understand money, because all cryptocurrency is money, and it behaves the same way with money. And things about money is that the key thing about money is that it doesn't make sense if most people don't accept it. So when you bring out these new coins and say it's going to be big this and big that, I ignore it, because if it's not widely accepted, if it's not widely accepted, that's just a hope. That's probably not in the light of so many other coins out there.
Yes.
Nobody gonna know it. But a lot of people getting caught with this cryptocurrency and putting money and think they're gonna become wealthy. They don't understand it, and investing in something they don't understand. The first rule of investing, you don't invest in something you don't understand. So if you start small, something you understand. So maybe doing a little farming, you learn, you research. That's why investing in yourself about your knowledge, increasing your knowledge.
Yes.
The more knowledgeable you become by investing in yourself, teaching, training, and improving skills, the better you are now at going higher levels. And most people lose their money because they're going blind into something because somebody says something and they don't understand what's going on, and they lose their money. Right? But you shouldn't do that.
But you would encourage them to try something else, but this time maybe something they understand a little better.
And exactly. And the other thing you do is that you don't throw all your eggs in one basket. If it's a new thing, you try a little bit and see what happens. You don't just go, fully blind into it. You kind of test it first.
Well, that's something that I think everybody really needs to understand tonight. Invest in something that you understand, something that you have some information about.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, excellent. Now we are about ready to wind down, so we are checking to see if we have any questions, any more questions coming in. So feel free, you have just a few more minutes to drop your question in the chat section before we bring our session to a close tonight. But I find that this is very useful information. And a lot of it is information that you don't normally hear from the banks or, just widely circulated, out there. So some of it is a bit surprising that you don't hear more of it, but I guess that's why you have the 1%ers, that small percentage that's, they know how to get the,
they know. For example, just to that issue, just the point you just made there, like one of the biggest, I say it's a lie, that a lot of people are told, the banks will tell you, oh, your house is your asset, therefore put a lot of money into it. No, the rule of an asset is assets give off money.
Oh, okay.
Anything that takes money out of your pocket is a liability. An asset is not naturally an asset. It's what happens to it that makes it an asset or a liability. But to get you to spend all your money into a mortgage to buy this wapstatious house that you can ill afford. They tell you it's an asset, you can use it for this, or you can use it for that. That is the biggest lie out there.
Because you can't use it as an asset because they own it, basically.
It's their asset.
It's their asset,
because
right.
they're getting money from you every month. So it's their asset, but it's your liability because for the time you get that house, you're putting money in it. You're not getting back the money. The only time you get money back is unless you let out a room or something, and somebody's actually paying you to use it. But a house. I remember when I started business first, I said I'm not going to build no building. So I used to see a lot of people when they're going to start business, the first thing they want to get a loan to buy before they even sell a little item. So before they even sell an item, they already have the noose around the neck to pay back the bank monthly. And when I told people, I said, no, I'm not going to give the bank my money. I want to have my own thing. And they said, that's dumb, that's foolish. I said, I rent someplace. So because what happens though, instead of taking all that money to put it into the building that doesn't give you any return, right? I just pay the rent that I can afford and take the money instead and buy inventory and then turn over the inventory, which is what generates the wealth for me, right? And that's how I built my business. I didn't have any money. I started my business with like $2,000. That's all I had. And most of that went into set of the legal work.
Yes.
But what I did is that I didn't buy. You have to be very careful. When I started first, I rented the place and then made sure that I had enough sales that could pay for the rent, right? And then as you grew, we can expand and whatnot. And then, it comes a day where we have so much income coming in that we'll have to build a building. But if I build a building, it will certainly have rental space in it.
Yes, yes,
So that it returns. I mean, that's how it works. But if you just build a building just for the sake of building, it's what we call a non-performing asset. You're not making any money off of it. So it's taking money out of your pocket.
Yes, yes. But unless you use it to build wealth, it's not really helping
It's not helping you. It's taking money out of your pocket because you have maintenance to do, you pay property tax on it. It's just taking money out of your pocket.
Yeah. Well, listen, this has been really eye-opening, a lot of what we've heard tonight. And I see folks expressing their appreciation tonight for the session. But we really want to just wind this down. I want you to just give your closing comments to people who are watching, and they've heard all of this. Just your final comments to them in building wealth, and just how you, a little encouragement to propel them forward for building wealth.
I would say, if you didn't take away anything, if there's one thing you should take away here tonight, is to start to get on that path to building wealth. The first thing you need to do is to take stock. That exercise I went through it's the begin. Once you do that exercise, it can set you on the path to building that wealth, because it gives you an idea of what's happening in your life, and it gives you the opportunity to change direction. Because, and not only that, you have to stick to it. You need to stick to it. Stick to the budgetary plans that you work out. Make sure you're living well within your means, and also make sure that you're incrementally increasing that way. You have to have patience. You're not going to go to a millionaire overnight, if that's what you want to be. But I'm saying it's going to take time. It's going to take time. So you have to put in the work. You have to have the patience to do it. And I think that's, if there's anything that's the advice I would give you. It takes time. It takes time. It's not like the lottery. Some people may win the lottery, but most people who win the lottery end up losing it anyway, because they expand their expenses to the money. But it's, as I said, it's about patience. Be patient. It's small incremental steps. Stick to it. Be consistent, and it will work.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We really appreciate this tonight, Brother Ephraim. He has shared with us, given us a wealth of information, and I really want to thank you for taking the time to do this tonight. As I mentioned at the beginning, the first time you shared with us, to this day, the members still remember it, so it's really beneficial, and I know you took the time out of your busy schedule to be with us tonight, and so we really appreciate it, and we want to express our appreciation, and I see folks expressing that appreciation now online. So thank you so much on behalf of the members of Gospel Light who are at home tonight viewing, and so we really appreciate that. We want to just say to you tonight, as we are winding down, just to remind you again of our service coming up over the weekend on Sunday. We look forward to being in the house of the Lord together at 10 o'clock. So we look forward to seeing members, visitors, those of you who would come and share in our service. But we want to thank you for joining us tonight for this Building Wealth session. It has certainly been informative, and I know you have learned something tonight. And of course, if you would like more information, I know Brother Eves would be more than happy to share more information. And so you can email us, you can call us. We have the information scrolling at the bottom. You can always send an email. You can always visit our website, of course, and contact us via our website, or send in an email, ask your questions, and also, of course, if you need some more advice in terms of investment, budgeting, whatever it is in terms of building wealth, I'm quite sure Brother Eves will be more than happy to share that information. Absolutely. And I know he's had so much more information he could have shared tonight, but for the sake of time. So thank you once again. We're going to go ahead and close out now. We want to say thank you to all of you who have viewed via Facebook and YouTube. It's been our pleasure to be here tonight to share this with you. Next week, Wednesday night, Lord willing, once again, Gospel Light, Wednesday Night Live. We encourage you to join us for another exciting evening. as we look forward to another wonderful session together. So once again, thank you so much for being a part of the session. And we say God bless you. We look forward to sharing with you again, the Lord willing. So do have a wonderful evening.
Good night.
Thank